Welcome along, Peter. I'm Dan Fairley with Peter Chalmers as always for another week of the live stream. How are you doing this week, Peter?
Not too bad, right? It's a bright sunny day over here, so it's always good when it's sunny.
Yeah, it's chilly here in New Zealand, but nice sunny days come out. So this week's topic, we're going to talk about work.com, what work.com is and what it isn't as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean it's interesting. Work.com has been recycled as a brand from Salesforce, and completely different to what it was before. When it was originally launched, it was launched as more of a gamification type of app. You know, you're getting badges for different things and all that type of stuff. It's funny how that stuff went away too. But yeah, now it's all about having a product there that is there to help businesses go back to work in these current times. So, and quite interesting the functionality that they're tipping into the product as well. So,
Yeah, quite a useful domain name to own when you think about
it's
it.
one they wouldn't. They obviously they chose to not let that one go for good reasons. I'd say
Yeah.
it is a good name, but
Yeah, they've owned a few good domain names over the years that we could maybe dive into in another episode. So, what do we know about this so far? There's been a lot of marketing kind of material, but I guess today we're going to try and dive into what is some of this stuff. It's definitely becoming relevant as businesses look to reopen and get back to some form of normality.
yeah,
I've seen Benioff tweeting quite heavily about the Work.com suite over the past few weeks, and he's obviously keen to play a lead role in the recovery as they kind of move forward. And we've seen some interesting leadership on that front.
yeah. And I think look, it's not unusual for Benioff to do that, and he certainly is the leader in that. Or one of the leaders anyway, in that social responsibility type of approach to business and that. And this is very much tied to all of that. I think the other good thing is, yeah, we don't have a great lot of detail at the moment. We have got some, but not a lot. And it's just an indication of how fast they're moving to get this thing actually out the door and get functional. But from what we've seen and what we have been able to pull together from the various resources that we've got, there's some really good stuff that's in there, and it's leveraging some of the very strong functionality that's already on the platform with the different clouds and that type of stuff they've got already. So,
Yeah. So should we jump into the first part of the product that we know something about, which is the Workplace Command Center?
yeah, which I actually quite like the name of that because I think it's something that's going to be very much at the forefront of everything as we go forward. Not, I think, for every business, basically, of a reasonable size anyway. I mean, small businesses probably wouldn't need all this type of functionality, but the stuff that's in here is actually quite interesting. So the command center in the first place actually leverages Health Cloud
Right.
from Salesforce. And interesting, look, it's a US, what I would classify in the first place, it's a US centric type of product. And one of the things they do call out is that it's HIPAA compliant. Now, I don't know
Right.
what that is, how that sort of sits with New Zealand and Australia, for example, and whether there's more compliance that's needed on that front. But it's obviously very strong and very focused on making sure it's got the right information in there, that you're not divulge anything from a patient perspective, that type of stuff as well. So,
Yeah. Well, I think a certain health related client that we've worked with in Australia, definitely HIPAA compliance was a key requirement.
yeah,
So I think it's probably quite globally applicable, that one.
yeah. Um, so this one, as I said, leverages Health Cloud. A lot of functionality inside Health Cloud. The demo that I saw earlier was of someone that was actually needing to log, well, go to a community in the first place and put their details in via a chatbot, and that chatbot would then determine whether they should be listed as or needing a case, needing further tests and all those type of things as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, obviously the chatbot was quite smart around what it was doing. It would go off After you answer those questions, it would go off and actually create a lead record inside Salesforce. This is one of those times where you probably shouldn't classify things as a lead,
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's using that functionality, and that enables the team then in the background to actually then manage that through into the next stage. From a technology perspective, it's leveraging Flow behind the scenes in the back end as well, or in the normal Salesforce side, not from the community side. It's also using the household type of function as well. So
Right.
you're able to identify anybody else in your household that should be included in this as well, and that would then create an account or person account record they're using on this.
Yep.
They've got the concept of a care program as well. So, and how they're using that, at least in this demo, was, you might be at risk from homelessness, or you might need food service or things like that. So you can actually register for those different care programs along the way. So there's a lot of functionality around giving the person what they need at the time, and also then looking to what more that they would be needing further down the track as things continue.
Right. So if I'm understanding that correctly, the actual use cases could be quite varied. So it could be used by any kind of agency that has a service, to help in the current times, be it health related or assisting people who are out of work, anyone who's been affected by the current environment and interacting with an agency that provides some kind of service to help.
Yeah, I think that's the sweet spot for it. But I think there's also other places it could be used as well. I mean, if we look at what we do and how we're situated across, how many different places are we in? 4 or 5, I think, all up.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it is about that, isn't it? It gives us that way of being able to understand from our team who's where, what do they need, and then being able to also manage their whole cycle through the testing and when they can be able to come back to work and what they can do and all those type of things as well. So whilst I think it's built with that health focus in the first place, I think it's very much adaptable to other industries quite easily. So
Right. So you think the workflows could be adapted to cater for a great number of situations?
yeah, definitely. I mean, look, Flow in the first place is totally adaptable, and those questions they're asking are totally 100% adaptable. So yes, those type of things then, and then obviously we can also lay any other automation on top of that we need to from that point. But yeah, it's a good strong product straight out of the box, which is a very good thing especially in this current time when people do need something like this.
So I guess one of the things, because it's based on Health Cloud, it's naturally going to be pitched at that higher end of town.
Yeah, and whilst I haven't just created a new word, dived into the cost of it, it will be that Health Cloud user license type of thing, from what I can tell so far. So yeah, and also I think just from an org structure, it would typically lend itself to that crowd.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that sounds promising. What's the next one on the list? Maybe part of the same thing. The employee wellness check.
Yeah,
Well, so is that part of the command center as well?
it is. It is. So it's an app, for want of a better word, an app within the command center. So it's keeping track of, if you had a test, where you're at, if you had a test and you tested positive, or if you had a test, the incubation period or isolation period,
Yeah.
And being able to track those various statuses all the way through. So didn't see a lot in there around that in particular, but that's the flavor of what it tends to look like.
So then we start to move into Shift management and planning.
Yeah, now this one I haven't seen anything about at all. I'm going to make a massive assumption that we've got all this information inside Salesforce, and ultimately you're going to have all the various moving pieces of everybody. One of the things we did find out the other day is that with work.com, the concept of an employee is now part of the data model.
I
So
thought that was
that
quite
means,
interesting, and how that's going to overlap with traditionally employees have been users. But
yeah,
now we have a concept of, okay, actually, maybe not everyone's a licensed user, but we still have 10,000 employees that we need to track in an object.
yeah. And that then gives us a lot more ability to actually do a lot more with that information as well. So having an employee, and then that lends itself to the shift planning and all that type of stuff. I mean, one of the things we've talked about internally is, coming back to work, you can't have everybody in the office at the same time. Then, the distancing rules and all those type of things. So I want to be able to book a desk or book the time I want to come in. And I'm assuming that's what that module is going to be about. Quite easy to do when you've got a team of a reasonable size, 100 people too. If you've got a team of 1,000 people, no, you definitely need something like that to do that. And we've seen that typically being part of things like, I suppose it's part of the field service lightning thing product, which would part of that would sort of lend to this. But being able to schedule your location, schedule a person, that's absolutely 100% something that's going to be required going forward. So,
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah, as you say, with every business, small and big, kind of has a need on this front, and we've been researching potential solutions to meet our own needs, which are reasonably simple in the grand scheme of things. But you think of larger organisations who are on the top of these big towers in Sydney, and you can only limit the number of people in the lifts at any given time. Things like that. So you actually have to plan things very carefully, because you just simply might not logistically be able to get that many people up to your floor, and then if there was a fire drill, what would happen? Things like that. So I think this one in particular is quite tactical, but top of mind for a lot of businesses at the moment.
I mean, it might take you 30 minutes to get to the office and an hour to get up the lift.
And let's not even talk about riding on public transport. It's a whole other social distancing challenge. And that one could be interesting in terms of, again, this is one that we don't know much about, but thinking about post this use case, there's a lot of use cases for shift management and planning. And so how, if something quite cool's been built, how could that be leveraged and applied to other areas completely unrelated, or just your general workforce planning as well. So you might see a scenario where out of a crisis, something quite useful and long term ends up being built.
I think that's one of the things we're seeing with different industries shifting and all that type of stuff, and how they're interacting, how people are thinking differently, and this is an indication of that. We've got elements here of things we've seen in other products being brought together as one package, and one place to go that you can actually just manage all your people and help your people too. That's another key thing here. I mean, I can see this expanding out further with the being able to, if I was an employee, finding out exactly what I need to do, how I can do it, leveraging communities and knowledge and all those parts of the product to actually deliver real information to someone in a very timely manner as well, because that's the other thing at the moment, that things are changing, as we've seen, so rapidly, that leveraging Salesforce in this way is probably one of the only tools I can think of that you can do things rapidly and get information out into people's hands easily, or more easily than other things.
Absolutely. So I'll keep working left to right on the diagram I'm looking at, and And a lot of these things have overlap from what we're seeing, but contact tracing. So my interpretation initially was, coming back to the health cloud aspect, this is more targeted at, potentially health departments or, geographic agencies running large scale tracing programs, which it looks like it can do, but, you also had a view that potentially this scales down as well.
Yeah, the so the example they gave in the demo was being able to track your the people in your organization. They could say where they'd been, how many people were there, if they knew anybody there, that you could actually capture that type of information as well. And it's all information you're handing over in the first place. That's a key point, I think, on that. But then if something was to happen, you'd easily be able to say, well, if I triggered with a positive case, then yeah, these are all the people that I've been in contact with. One of the good things that is part of this package as well is that they're using the graphical view of the household as well. So
Which is a useful view.
Yeah, I've always loved that. And it sort of disappeared there for a while, but now it's back by the looks of it, which is great. Being able to drill into those records and seeing those connections there, and again, really lent itself to this. So there's a couple of different elements to it. It's I need to be able to track me, but also if I've gone to a restaurant on Saturday, I can say I went to a restaurant and there was 30 other people there, bang. And then if you've gone to the same restaurant, you can do the same. So you can see that those relationships inside Salesforce, because that's the beauty of it all, we'll start being able to track that information back properly, and we get that information that way. So
interesting aside on this front, I saw a post on LinkedIn a few weeks ago now. So last year, Deloitte had implemented a solution using Salesforce for the Ministry of Health in New Zealand for bowel cancer tracking.
Yep.
And they actually have, as part of New Zealand's response, I believe, they've actually leveraged that solution to build out the wider contact tracing program that's been happening here. So I believe Salesforce is at the core of New Zealand's contact tracing efforts.
Which is a good thing. I don't like the where you take something and repurpose it and use it for something else, but you're using the core functionality. It's
and that just speaks to the ability to use agility to really stand something up very quickly. Meet the needs in a short-term crisis, and then adapt, evolve, and improve it, and keep going.
And I think the other part of it also is something that actually 100% works. It's being used out there, and being able to I want to use the word pivot. Pivot that to something else that is on something that is tested, and as I say, it works. I'm alluding to something that I don't want to talk about from an Australian perspective. But anyway.
Yeah, don't go there, Peter. Don't go there. Shall we move on then? And this one's probably one of the more easier to understand aspects of this, because it's basically something that's already out there. It's My Trailhead for employees.
Yeah, so we know how strong Trailhead is and how much we love Trailhead. Being able to set up your specific, and then again it goes back to what I was saying before about communities and knowledge and all that type of stuff, and you've got Trailhead on top of it as well. Being able to set up a trail, for example, on getting ready to come back to work. There are different things that we need to be able to do. There's different things we need to know about, and having that trail there for that, it just simplifies things, and you can make sure that you've gone through the balance and checks, and both the organisation can then be comfortable about it, but also I, as an employee, know that these are things I can do as well. So that's a great app to be able to do it that way. And obviously with My Trailhead, it's got all your branding, it's all your content, it's all your specific, delivering to your specific needs around that. So
yeah, it's really just an extension of some of the great use cases for My Trailhead is onboarding experiences, and this is just another path of a new module that all staff need to go through in order to then potentially take a quiz at the end of it and get signed off that they're they're ready to come back to work and have complied with all the health and safety requirements. So this is just, I think, a really good application of something that was existing that doesn't need too much in the way of additional functionality. Maybe some internal work to design the trails that staff need to go through. But the core product's there, just waiting to be leveraged. It'll be interesting. This, my trailhead's been an interesting one. It hasn't, to my knowledge, it's not as widely used as it perhaps should be, because it's a very useful concept. And as you say, trailhead.com is possibly the most successful thing of its kind for any software platform. So this could be the catalyst that gets it going.
Yeah, it would be good to see some traction on that. That's for sure, because it's something it's been out there for a little while, and I think any type of online learning platform is difficult at the best of times.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, I've always enjoyed Trailhead just from the way that it works, how it's delivered, and it's easy. It's easy to actually get through it and understand what you're doing. So, work at your own pace and all that type of stuff. So having that flavour to this is good. So
yeah.
I've got to stop saying the word flavour.
The next one, I think, again, another one that overlaps that we've kind of talked about potentially, but emergency response management, kind of, I'm sure that links in with the command center and the contact tracing.
So I think the command center is the overarching things ultimately, but it was the emergency response was the one that I looked at in particular. So it's all those things that we talked about previously, and being able to utilize Salesforce to manage those responses. So, as the name would suggest.
And then I guess as we come out of the emergency kind of part of this crisis, and we start to think about volunteering and other ways that we can give back and help those affected. So volunteer and grants management. I guess this would be another piece that you would say is already out there as part of the non-profit cloud to some extent.
Yeah, that's right. So it's definitely part of the non-profit success pack in that cloud. So again, we haven't seen anything specifically for this product for work.com about it, but I'm going to assume they're going to leverage that because it's already there, it's already working. And it's interesting, part of the volunteering management app, they've also got that, although it's been a little while since I've looked at it, they had that shift management type of planning in there as well. So those things, again, you can see the overlap there, and the reuse of or potentially reuse of the existing functionality. So yeah, all that stuff sort of, it's all overlapping in that, we talked about care programs before. That could be part of the grant management as well, or that type of functionality. So again, an app that's out there that's working and is being reused in a different way for a specific purpose. So.
Yep, that will. All of these things bolt together nicely, don't they, into one kind of comprehensive solution that you pick and choose the aspects that are relevant for you.
I think, and we've talked about it before, but that's the power of this platform, that you can do that, and it's not a plug and play type of approach. But it sort of is at the same time, And it may be, as an organisation, you may look at this and go, well, I don't need these things, so you won't use that part, but you'd use the core elements or whatever you've decided that you need for your organisation. You're not going to lose any functionality through it.
Yeah. And that's a good segue into, as well as these core products that Salesforce is releasing, partners build apps as well. So it looks like a few partners have got on board with this already and have either apps existing or new that kind of cater to the same need of the the kinds of things that businesses need to get back to work. I see one on the work.com homepage that I've looked at before, an app from Traction On Demand called Traction Guest, which is sort of your typical visitor management check-in app at reception. But that suddenly serves a great need for contact tracing efforts and the like, and
Yeah.
so it can easily be extended and kind of fit into this category. Yeah, it's almost like we've defined a new pandemic response category of apps that people need as well. So I've seen Accenture's got some stuff out there as well. And then just general use cases as well in terms of the different conversations people are having with clients. And I know of a couple of good ones here in New Zealand that Devante have rolled out. One for a supermarket, allowing, I think probably back during level 4, sort of the core lockdown that we had around, texting a number to get a virtual place in a queue and then being notified when you can go in store. And I saw the other day that they had rolled that solution out to the Automobile Association as well, so that when you're going to get your car serviced or warranted, that same thing, you could do the virtual queuing and relax in your car until it's time to drive into the bay and get the work done.
Well, as someone that has been to Bunnings lately to pick up a click and collect, anybody that's doing click and collect should be using that app, quite frankly, because that would just make it so much easier.
Yeah. And it's again,
Bunnings
combines some marketing cloud to do the SMS, some flows on the core product to maintain a queue, move people from a wait list to the next in the line, configure how many people are allowed in store at a given time. So it's just another great use case of how the power of the platform can stand up a solution to a need very quickly. You can go from proof of concept that works, show it to someone, and then just polish it up a bit, and then get it out there and get it usable.
I mean, if we consider, it feels like it's been a long time since this thing's been around, and we've been isolated and all that type of stuff. But in reality, it hasn't been that long at all. And seeing these apps being produced not just by Salesforce but by partners as well is, again, it's a testament to it's both the platform itself, but also to the partners and Salesforce customers that can actually do this type of thing. So what would normally have potentially taken 6 months, 12 months to build, we're seeing things being delivered rapidly, and they're working. So it's good.
That's good. So from a work.com point of view, do we have any indications of timeline of kind of where some of these apps are at and when they might be a bit more tangible and out there?
Yeah, so it's interesting in the first place that the way that Salesforce is positioning this is that these are the apps to use to reopen. And June is the timeline that they're talking about around that. And we're seeing a whole heap of countries reopening currently and into the next few weeks. So I think the expectation is that sometime in the first half of June, that definitely will be available. And there are elements of this that are already being released. That when the full suite of product is there, I think will be if I was a betting man, I'd be putting money on mid-June, maybe a little bit later at worst, hopefully. So
yeah, I saw. Probably earlier in the month, Benioff was tweeting, let's get back to work June the 1st. So I'm sure that's the internal deadline that they're all trying to hit.
Well, whilst we don't know, I'd expect that they'll be using this internally. So given how many employees they've got over how many different locations, it makes perfect sense. So that might be the thing that's driving the timeline in the first place. But it's got a bit sooner rather than later, we would hope anyway.
Yeah. Actually, on that note, Benioff tweeted today that the Salesforce South Korea and Hong Kong offices have reopened this week. So maybe they were kind of the first cabs off the rank to test some of the stuff out.
That's a good sign then, isn't it? So.
That's the full suite of work.com. Probably a good place for us to wrap up for this week, Peter.
Yeah.
As always, we'll just finish off by telling people about our new offering, SFDC Academy. So this is a great opportunity. perfect use case for this program is, say, a solo admin who's working in an environment. Maybe you don't always have projects on the go that you're working with a partner, but having access to a team of people that you can bounce ideas off, help get direction on best practices, help get unstuck, and keep things moving forward, so that you've got that partnership in mind to maintain a really healthy org as you move forward. And so this is a program that we're now offering that gives you that functionality or access to us and the team, and can help steer you in the right direction. So check out the website address that's on the screen down the bottom now and have a look. Otherwise, thank you everyone for listening in this week. I'm sure over the next few weeks, Peter, we'll learn a bit more about work.com, and maybe we can revisit some of these things as we learn a bit more. But for now, that's what we know, and we'll see what comes over the next few weeks.
Indeed. Farewell.
Thank
Until
you,
next week.
everyone. See ya.